The year was 2007. It doesn't feel so long ago, but in the landscape of a life, it's an entirely different era. The world wasn't worried about a digital apocalypse anymore. We were all too busy upgrading our first-generation iPhones. For me, 2007 wasn't about technological leaps. It was the year my own world, which had felt so stable and full of promise, crumbled into dust on the sun-baked island of Malta. I was 24, a fresh-faced archaeology graduate, with a scholarship to assist in the survey of a Phoenician shipwreck off the coast of Gozo. It was the kind of opportunity that made the years of dusty library stacks and meticulous cataloging worthwhile. It was supposed to be the start of my career, the story I would tell for decades. And it is, but not for the reasons I thought. The story isn't about ancient mariners, it's about Elena. Elena was a baker. She didn't just make bread, she crafted it, coaxed it into life with hands that were perpetually dusted with a fine layer of flour. She was as warm and life-giving as the sourdough starter she nurtured with an almost religious devotion. I met her not in the neon chaos of a Paceville bar, but in the quiet, fragrant haven of her small bakery tucked away in a narrow side street in Rabat. I'd been wandering the silent alleys after a day exploring the catacombs, drawn in by a scent that was pure alchemy, yeast caramelizing sugar and a hint of anise. She was behind the counter, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, a smudge of flour on her cheek. I bought a fidera, the traditional ring-shaped Maltese bread, still warm from the oven. Our fingers brushed as she handed it to me. Her smile was shy but genuine, and her dark, almond-shaped eyes held a light that could have guided ships home. I came back the next day, and the next. My archaeological pursuits soon included a daily pilgrimage for bread and a few precious minutes of her company. Our courtship unfolded to the rhythm of her work. I'd arrive in the early afternoons, as she was finishing her bake, and we'd take her creations, crusty loaves, flaky pastizzi, and sweet, date-filled imcaret, and explore the island. We'd sit on the cliffs at Dingley, the sea a vast expanse of sapphire below us, sharing a loaf of bread and a bottle of wine. She taught me the difference between a good crumb and a great one, the secrets held within a perfectly blistered crust. Her passion was infectious. She saw history not just in temples and fortifications, but in the recipes passed down through her family, in the ancient grains still grown in the terraced fields. Her family, from a village near Sashishi, was as loud and wonderful as I could have imagined. Her Nanu grandfather, a man whose face was a testament to a life lived under the Mediterranean sun, would tell me stories of the war while I helped him tend his vegetable garden. Her mother, whose recipes were the foundation of Elena's bakery, would watch with knowing eyes as her daughter and I grew closer. She fed me constantly, heaping plates of fenketa rabbit stew and praising my appetite, seeing it as a sign of a good heart. I was hopelessly, deliriously in love. It was a wholesome, comforting love, as nourishing as the food she created. We didn't just talk of the future, we planned it. We'd find a small house with a garden for her to grow herbs and a big traditional stone oven. I would work on my digs, and she would run the most beloved bakery in all of Malta. Our life would be simple, grounded, and real. The change, when it came, was as subtle as a shift in the wind. It was late August, the air thick and heavy with the promise of a storm. The scent of baking bread, which had always been my comfort, now felt cloying. Elena grew quiet. She started burning batches, a cardinal sin in her world. She'd stare out the window of her bakery, her hands still, her thoughts a million miles away. When I'd ask what was wrong, she'd blame the humidity for ruining the dough, the stress of a large order, anything but the truth. She finally told me on a humid evening at the waterfront in Sengli, looking across the harbor at the fortified beauty of Vittoriosa. The water lapped gently against the stone, a stark contrast to the storm brewing inside me. "I can't do this, Liam," she said, her voice small and fragile. I was completely lost. "Do what? What are you talking about, Chanini?" The term of endearment felt foreign on my tongue for the first time. Her eyes, when they met mine, were filled with a sorrow so deep it seemed to swallow the light from the harbor. Us, this life we've been planning. The words didn't compute. They were a language I didn't understand. Elena, I love you. I thought we were happy. And then she laid it bare, the secret ingredient that had poisoned everything. An old flame, a man she had been engaged to years before, had returned from a life he'd built in Canada. He wanted her back, and in his return, he had reawakened a part of her heart. She had walled off a foundation she had built our love on top of, without ever telling me it was there. I stood there hollowed out, the gentle sounds of the harbor fading to a muted roar in my ears. The story was a cliché, a tale as old as time, but the pain it inflicted was sharp, specific, and utterly mine. The days that followed were a special kind of hell. I moved my things from her apartment above the bakery. The lingering scent of yeast and sugar was a constant physical torment. I tried to focus on the shipwreck, to lose myself in the careful mapping of amphorae on the seabed, but the silence of the deep only amplified the ringing in my ears. Every ancient broken object I catalogued felt like a metaphor for my own life. Our final goodbye was a sterile, impersonal affair at the Malta International Airport. I was flying home, my research incomplete, my heart in pieces. She showed up just before I went through security, looking thinner, the flowery, life-affirming glow gone from her skin. "He's a good man, Liam," she whispered, as if that would somehow cauterize the wound. "I'm so sorry." I wanted to tell her that good men don't poach the happiness of others. I wanted to tell her she had broken me, but all I could manage was a stiff single nod. I didn't look back as I walked towards the gate, dragging my suitcase and the new, unbearable weight of my grief. On the plane I watched the honey-colored island shrink until it was just a speck in the vast indifferent blue of the Mediterranean. Even now, the smell of a real bakery, not a supermarket imposter, but a place where bread is made with love, can stop me in my tracks. It brings it all back in a rush, the warmth of her hands, the taste of a fresh fatira, the devastating quiet finality in her eyes. I eventually finished my doctorate, but the passion had been leached out of me. I found a different life, a quieter one. But Malta, the island of ancient stones and the sacred scent of baking bread, will forever be the place where my heart was kneaded, risen, and then irrevocably broken.